Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Life After Recruitment podcast. I made this podcast to inspire recruiters in Tokyo who are wondering what else is out there. Recruitment is an amazing career, but sometimes people can feel trapped and feel like they have no other options. So if that is you, then send me a message and let's talk about building an exit strategy. Better now than later. Today's guest is a fantastic example of a creative person who found their path outside of recruitment. Even before joining recruitment or coming to Japan, Ryan's story had many inflection points where he wondered, what can I do next? From a tough childhood, sucked in with the wrong crowd, to learning music production, then becoming an electrician near the North Pole, and finally settling down with the love of his life in Japan. He's only recently found his passion, which was right in front of his eyes the whole time: movie making. He learned it from scratch within just a year or two, and now he does it full time. I think you'll enjoy hearing about his transition into the industry, out of the industry, and his advice to aspiring creatives. Well, we spoke a bit before, and you had mentioned your story. You were a recruiter at one point, and now you're an entrepreneur. And I was just hoping to fill the audience in a little bit about what is your background? What were you doing before coming to Japan?
I guess moved around a lot as a kid. That was one of the things. Didn't really have a stable home. So we kind of moved around a bit. I didn't really have a place that I could call home until about 13 years old, where I moved out with my father to the suburbs. North Delta, if anyone cares to know, is right by Surrey. Surrey's known for having kind of a sort of bad rap because it's a lot of drug use goes on there, and there's some gangs, and it's not like a great area, but North Delta is kind of the clean area of Surrey. I was an academic kid, so I was interested in learning and mathematics and all these things. But when I got to that place, I sort of lost focus. Many of the kids I hung out with were into, skateboarding and smoking cigarettes, and we were just kind of part of that sort of bad group of kids. And we weren't hurting people or doing anything like that, but we just were kind of anti-establishment skateboarders, not really listening to teachers, just causing all kinds of havoc in the school. And
so you're the cool kids, basically.
well, I guess now that I think about it, maybe I was cool at the time, but I don't think I was cool anymore. I wish I wasn't part of that group, to be honest. It was not sort of a really productive school experience for me. And what ended up happening was, at the last year, my 12th year in school, I didn't make it. I wasn't able to graduate. And I was actually going to just you know what, I'm done. I'm not going to graduate. My mom, who's very supportive, was like, you are graduating. If you don't, I will kill you. And so I was like, all right, I guess I have to go in classes with students a year younger than me. And at that time, actually, a bunch of my friends, some of the bad influence friends, they left. So it was just me in the school, and I started actually getting into school, and I was like, this is awesome, right? I took psychology. The year that I had no friends, I got not straight A's, but almost straight A's. And a little bit earlier, but my friend Pat, he really taught me about self-learning. He was a self-taught graphic designer. So this was when Adobe Photoshop, we're talking 20 years ago, it was still great. You could do a lot of stuff, but not even close to what you can do now. And he was really good at Photoshop, I remember, and he's self-taught. So he was kind of inspired me to start to take on this self-learning. So, I graduated and I started going into music, was my main passion. I was in some bands and played guitar, and this is the thing I loved was playing music. So I really did not know what to do. My mom's like, my mom's always been my kind of champion, right? So she's like, you got to do something, Ryan. You can't just party and hang out with these people. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go to music school. So it wasn't what you would call a music theory school. It was a music production school. So they give you access to the recording studios, the microphones, you work with bands. You also do digital music technologies, movie production, sound design, everything you can imagine with sound. So for 2.5 years, roughly, I spent time at the Art Institute of Vancouver. But I started kind of hanging around with the wrong crowd again, and it was not really good. So I was like, okay, what do I do? My mom again was like, Ryan, you got to do something. Well, I forgot to say this, but I have 3 sisters, right? And my oldest sister moved to Australia, and she met a great guy. And she said, okay, Ryan, do you want to come and live at my house for a year in Australia and just get away and try to find yourself, right? And this, I'm about 24. So I went to school when I was 22, finished about 24, almost 25. So it's like, yeah, okay, I'll try this. So I went to Australia, spent a year there. And it's really crazy. When I went there, I was about 100 and maybe 100, because I'm a pretty short guy. I'm about 5'6", right? So when I went there, I was probably 120, 25 pounds, really unhealthy and not a heavy guy. And I went there. My sister was a personal trainer. She was into nutrition and taking proteins. So she's like, hey, I'm going to train you. Because actually, when you go to Australia, it's crazy. The people there are all jacked. Like, when I was on the beach, it was ridiculous, man. First day on the beach, I go there. Every dude has a six-pack. They're all surfers. They're all good-looking, tall. It's literally one of the most intimidating experiences of my life. Because I went on the beach and I was pale, no muscles, very almost sickly looking, right? Because I've been in school studying. I had no muscle. So I'm not saying you got to have muscle to be a man, but it really felt emasculating, right? So my sister was like, yeah, we're going to train you up. So for that year, I trained every day. And by the time I got back to Canada after a year, I was 175. I literally put on so much muscle, right? And I'm way thicker, way stronger. And my people couldn't even recognize me. Like, what happened to you, man? How did you get so much muscle? I was like, I trained for a year straight, literally. And the amount of growth you get for new lifters is insane, right? So I kind of experienced that, that newbie gains, and it was really liberating. It felt good. So yeah, anyways, I got back, and again, Levi, I did not know what I was going to do. So I'm at this point, 25, 26, I still don't know what the heck I'm going to do, right? And so I'm, really thinking deeply, kind of unhappy. And my mom says, your grandpa is an electrician, so go to Edmonton and get an apprenticeship. So at least if, something goes wrong, you can always fall back on it. And so I went to Edmonton, which, if your audience doesn't know Edmonton, the winters get to be about -30, -40. It's very cold. But it's a blue collar city, and it's an oil city, and you make a lot of money. So I started doing this apprenticeship, and I was making in my first year pretty good money, maybe 30, 40 grand, even just my first year. And as I kept going up, I actually saw it through. And I spent 5 years there becoming an electrician. I did it. I became a journeyman electrician. The last year I was electrician, I worked up north, which was in Fort McMurray. Very cold. This place is actually very close to the northern circle, 60-degree mark. And yeah, was making really good money, $12,000 a month, amazing. It was 1 week on, 1 week off, just incredible amounts of money. And but it was actually a very difficult life. I mean, it was, like I said, 1 week on, I would go and work and come back. I'd be really tired for 3 days. And then, in 4 more days, I got to go back to work and I got to fly in. So it was fly in and fly out kind of job. So it became really exhausting. And I guess this is probably a good time to bring in my wife now. So my wife is a Japanese lady, and I've known her since I was 18. My cousin happened to have this Japanese exchange student living at his house, and this was to be my future wife. I saw this pretty little Japanese girl, and I was like, oh, she's very cool. So I started talking to her, and she kind of seemed to like me back. So I put her on Facebook, and we had a couple dates, and we kind of had a really nice connection when I was 18. We walked through Vancouver. I took her to beautiful spots, and I took her up to this beautiful dam in Vancouver. It's called the Cleveland Dam, and you overlooks this beautiful view of Vancouver, and it was a really romantic kind of thing we had. I guess it was after a year she had to go back to Japan. So that was it. I thought, okay, that's done. I always liked her, but I didn't think there was ever a possibility of us getting together. I was just like, all right. So anyways, we kept connected. We just kind of talked as friends. And I was like, in the back of my mind, maybe something might happen here. I don't know. It might. But yeah. So after I was finished my apprenticeship as a journeyman, she sent me a message, said I'm going to come to Canada on a working holiday visa. And I was like, oh, like, really? Like, at this time I'm a lot more mature. I've got money. I'm quite a different person than I was when I was 18. So she came and stayed with me, and we started this whole like relationship, and it became really fulfilling and enjoyable because she was, at the time, to be honest, I was still smoking cigarettes, and I had not the most healthy lifestyle. I was still pretty healthy, going to the gym and stuff, but my health wasn't great. And when she came, just sort of something clicked, and I knew that if I pursue this, something good could happen. So she asked me, she said, "Hey, after a year, I'm going back to Japan. Do you want to come check it out?" I was like, all right, well, I've done a bunch of crazy stuff before this point. I'm like, all right, I could give it a shot. So I went to Japan, and we spent this like insane year. I ended up going around Osaka, USJ, Tokyo, and then we did a bunch of other traveling too. I think we went to the Philippines as well, and I noticed like this is awesome, like this life of mine. I quit smoking completely, Levi. Like I had no desire to smoke, nothing. It was all gone because I'm really living life at this point, and I'm like 30 years old, right? Like, man, like this is insane. So the year is almost up, hey, and I'm like, I actually love this girl. I'm like, there's no way I can go back home. I just can't. So I was like, I planned it. I was working at the time at a restaurant studying Japanese, right? So I asked my Japanese friends, I'm like, I'm going to make this proposal and try to memorize it in Japanese. So I wrote this whole proposal out. I got them to help translate it, and I studied all the words for about a week, and I memorized the entire thing. Whether or not it was good or it sounded good coming out of my mouth, I don't know. My wife says it sounded good, but so
I'm sure there's no sweeter sound than that.
right. So it was in her own language. And she, at the time, we were surfers. So we used to go to this spot, which I think Ohara Beach. Yeah. So that was our favorite surfing spot because it was really easy and it wasn't a lot of, big waves there. And it was just kind of fun and relaxing. So I was like, that's where I'm going to do it. So the surf beach is right in front, and there's this lookout, which is maybe 3 or 4 floors, and you go up and you can really see. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it right there. So I thought about it, and we snuck in because it was barred off at that time. So we jumped over the fence and kind of went up to the top, and I did it. And she didn't know what was happening. And then holy crap, she cried, right? And then it was this whole big thing. And yeah, anyway, so I proposed, she said yes, and then we started to get all the paperwork settled, and we had this big wedding, and in Vancouver, my family came, or sorry, not in Vancouver, in Tokyo, my family came, and yeah, that's kind of where it went.
And you were working at a restaurant at the time, you said?
Yes, that's correct.
And then at this point, did you realize that you wanted to stay in Japan long term, or did you go back to Vancouver? Or
no, well, that was my whole purpose. I wanted to marry her so I didn't have to leave. I mean, it wasn't the reason why I married her. I was in love with her, so I definitely married her for the right reasons. But one of the big reasons too, I didn't want to leave. I wanted to stay because I made lots of great connections and all that stuff happened. So we decided that we were going to find a place, and I wasn't making great money because I was restaurant. So I was like, I'm going to try recruitment. I heard about it. My friend said, hey, recruitment, you can make good money, big commissions, give it a shot, right? I was like, all right. So I started applying to recruitment companies. I went through like 4 or 5 interviews. And I eventually got hired at this place called RGF. I don't know if I can say the name, but RGF Professional Japan, they're the ones that hired me. And I started this recruitment thing. And it was actually awesome. Like, I only did it for about a year and 8 months, but God, was it awesome. I made good money. I didn't bill a lot, but I think I billed like 20 million my first year roughly, which was not too bad. And made some great commissions. I think I made like a couple million yen commissions, Hachijuman commissions. That's on top of a base salary. So it was good, man. Like we were making great money. And then I started to notice that there was that same lifestyle, which you can never escape. I don't care where you go. If you have that personality inside of you, that party person, it never leaves you. It's always there. And I noticed that, okay, well, I'm starting to hang out with people who want to drink. I started drinking more. I started gaining weight. Then I picked up a cigarette a couple times, and I'm like, oh, this is not good, right? Like I just felt that whole life coming back, and it was scary, man, because here I am in a new place. I'm starting my life with my wife right now, and we're trying to build something, and I could mess it all up. So I was
Mm.
like, I can't do that. So I just said, you know what? I talked to her. This is right when COVID started. The whole market just dropped after COVID, and I was struggling in the to find clients and to find candidates and to do the whole recruitment process. So we just had a big talk, and she's like, you know what, like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I don't know. I feel like I'm a creator. Like I have to create things. Like that's what I've always been. I created music. Even when I was an electrician, I was building and creating. I'm just somebody like, I like sales too, Levi, but I was a creator, and she knew that. So yeah, I ended up trying to do a bunch of things. It's crazy because like basically I got a camera. This is what happened. I got a camera, and I was like, I need to do some product shots because I was like, I'm gonna do drop shipping. That's what I said, drop ship. I'm gonna do drop shipping. So I got this
Classic.
classic, right? So I got a Shopify store, and I like found some products in China, talked to the manufacturers on Alibaba. I did that whole thing, and I was like taking product photos, and I started this little tiny small jewelry company called Avenelli. I made the name Avenelli. I tried to make it look all like
Sounds
high
fancy.
class. Yeah, sound fancy, right? It was just out of my head, Avenelli, right? I was like, okay. So I made the logo and product shots, and I made actually in the first couple two months, I was making like $1,000, and not that
Wow.
not that much, but still a good amount of money for somebody who just started doing this. And what ended up happening was one of my friends in recruitment asked me if I could film them a video just like this, an interview style video. And I was like, yeah, yeah, okay. I have a camera, so I'll try it. So I like went to their office, filmed a video. And then I was like, I don't know how to edit. So I've edited before, like of course with music editing. So I could probably this very close. So it was quite similar to music editing. So I started editing, and this is actually pretty fun. So I started like making little pieces of content, like just tiny ones, like yeah, my sister was running she was doing her own little swimwear brand, so I helped take some product photos and like also like a little video, and this is awesome. So I started editing videos, and then it just became I just started kind of looking into editing, like, oh, there's like different cut points, there's different kinds of editing styles, and I started looking at the editing in movies, and I don't even know what happened, man. It's just like all of a sudden all this stuff started coming to me, and I'm like I love this. Like this is amazing. So I just started upgrading my equipment as much as I could, started studying editing, studying filmmaking, and I realized like, oh my god, like this is unbelievable because as you can see, Eddie or Levi or Levy, Levi, I like to talk a lot and I love to tell stories, and that's what I want to do, man. And I realize like I am a
Mm.
storyteller at heart. Like I have to do this because it's something that I'm naturally interested in, right? So I was like, you know what? Like, I'm not saying like, I'm yeah, like I'm not saying I'm at the point where I want to be yet, but I just knew that this is something I love to do. So I was like, I'm doing it. So I just started going crazy and messaging people and editing videos, and all of a sudden, like, I have a better camera, I have better lenses, I upgrade my software. All of a sudden, I'm working on short films. I contacted some people. They asked me, hey, do you want to be assistant camera operator? Yes. I did a couple ones for free. Then I worked on a Sony commercial. Then it's just like, it just went crazy. And then now, like, I don't even know what happened, honestly. Like, I look back, like, all that time, and it's like I got smacked into a completely different life. Like, it almost feels like my life is just, yeah, flipped into this whole new thing. So, yeah.
And you started from zero. I mean, you were in recruitment and you only left because I guess the market went down and you were realizing that you were changing yourself.
That's
But
right.
then after this, the drop shipping, I guess it just kind of fell away because you found something that you were passionate about, or what happened with that?
Yeah, I feel like if you are a creative person, you got to find your medium. Everybody has a medium, right? Like the thing is, I love music, but it was never a medium for me because the thing is,
Mm,
for me, it was always about music and what I see because music for me reinforces the emotion of what I'm seeing. I'm an extremely visual person and I fantasize a lot. That's my brain is always playing movies in my head. So it was just I just found the medium that was good for me. And I think when the creative person does find that medium, it does something to them. Like even Van Gogh, right? It just clicks. Like Van Gogh didn't find it till, I think his early 30s and he just went crazy. I'm not saying he wasn't a successful painter. He died without success, but still, that was kind of what happened. He was only happy when he was painting, right? And he found it. And that's kind of how I felt like, yeah.
So how instantaneous was it when you got the camera and you did your first shoot because you were asked by your friend at first, right? How
Mm.
quickly did you realize that you wanted to do this for some period of time and invest?
That's a good question. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it was I don't think it was instant. It was gradual, but it was it's I think it was all out of fear, man. Like I was scared because I'm building a life. I didn't really know what to do, and I felt like this was kind of my last chance. I have to make a decision because I'm 38 now, right? I'm 38, so I had to really make a decision of what to do. I've done so many things, and I just like this is my last sort of hurrah. But it wasn't just out of fear. It was just that I felt like it was something that was so fulfilling. It was just fulfilling because like, I've watched so many also Levi, I was really interested in movies for a long time, but I didn't know it. You know how like when something is right in front of you, but you
Hmm.
just when you discover it, you're like, it's been there the whole time. It's been in me the whole time. That's kind of what it was like. Cause even like recently, for example, I was working with a client and for some reason I've been able to memorize scenes in movies, very specific scenes that I play over in my head many times and they've always been in there. Like the Jurassic Park scene when him and Ellie Sadler go out to run, she needs to turn the power back on. He says, "Oh, we're being hunted," right? That scene with the raptors. Like I got the whole scene. I know every shot, every line in that movie. I know every line in like even silly movies like Ace Ventura. So these things have always been in there. And I just the fact that I found it, yeah, it really started to make me think and I just was like, you know what? Like this is where I'm going, man. There's nothing stopped me now. So, yeah.
I mean, you have a talent for it, and that's the whole reason that we got connected in the first place is because I saw your videos that you were doing for Cornerstone, and I
Thanks.
there was multiple videos that came out, and I was just like, what happened to their marketing? Like
Yeah.
they've hired somebody who is doing this really right, and I reached out, and then yeah, that's how we originally got connected. So you do have a talent for it.
I appreciate it. I
It's
mean,
really cool.
yeah. Yeah, I
How
appreciate
long
that.
did it take you to get then from zero, from knowing nothing about filming and cameras and editing until the point that you're at right now?
Well, I mean, I'm a very perfectionist mindset. I had to drop that because, I have to say, making things is the scariest thing you can do. It's literally the most terrifying thing. I'm scared every project I start. I honestly don't even think I'm good. I am very hard on myself. Like I don't believe I have any talent, which I'm not saying. Yeah, it's kind of the sort of the curse of the artistic person, I think. I think most of what it is just discovering, man. Like I stumble upon ideas and sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad, but I mean, of course, the technical skill of learning the camera and stuff and like, all the frame rates and different exposure settings and filters and all the stuff that you would operate at the camera. I think I learned that pretty quick, but I mean, I even kind of went about it the wrong way. Like I bought expensive equipment before I was really good at what I was doing. And that's probably one of the things I think that I learned the most is like you're literally like the camera itself is just like a medium. It's just a way of expressing yourself. So anytime you're trying to like make a video or something, you should be thinking about like not copying. You might get an inspiration from somebody else, but I think it's like the thing that takes the longest is to just understand that it's like a tool to just create. It's a medium to create whatever vision's in your head. And I think that's a lifelong thing. Like I believe every time I do a video, I feel better, but how long is that took? I think, yeah, the technical stuff was pretty quick, but this whole like, yeah, visionary thing it's really hard. I still struggle with it every day, man. It's really challenging.
Where are you at right now in terms of your business?
Of course, like I have three pretty solid clients that give me consistent work, and then I have a bunch of smaller clients. So it's really hard to get retained clients. I mean, it's really tricky because they're gonna have to pay you every month. It's almost like they're giving you a salary, right? So luckily, the three clients that I have actually pay me enough more than I made in recruitment. So that's really good. So I have a pretty good foundation right now. Yeah. But the thing is, you never know what could happen with a company, right? They could cut me off one day and I lose 30% of my income, right? So that's the terrifying part. So yeah, like my thinking is it is a business. I am trying to run a business, but my thinking is now like if I just get so undeniably good at what I'm doing, I'll always have work. That's how I look at it. I just want to become so undeniably good. Like, okay, that guy made that. Holy crap. Like I can rely on him to make me something good. Like that's my mentality is like, don't think about, of course, like Levi, having money is, you need money to live. Necessities are important. Roof over your head, food in your belly, all that stuff has to happen. But in my opinion, it's like, if I just get really good, yeah.
This is the real security. If
That's
you
right.
build your own security with a skill, then you'll, even if a company lets you go, then you'll always have it to fall back on. So
that's how I feel. Yeah.
So, but I'm hearing there's like a lot of fear and anxiety. I mean, I experience it too as a new entrepreneur. You're farther ahead in this journey. How many years since you quit recruitment? Since 2020?
It's been, I think in total, well, there was that period where I was doing the drop shipping, so probably in total 3 years, three and a half maybe. Yeah.
Doing the pure camera and filming stuff.
No, that's been about 2.5 years, I would say.
Wow.
Roughly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, like, how's the fear and the anxiety around, is this good enough, around the money fluctuations? Has that changed year on year? Is that getting worse, or does it get better, or how does that look as an entrepreneur?
I honestly, this is truthfully, I think it's gotten worse. The reason is because I don't know. I feel like the more you know, the less, there's a good quote I heard recently, but yeah, I know enough now to know that I'm not where I want to be. Because I see other people and I see what they're doing and they're just like unbelievably skilled. And I know I have skill, of course. Like I'm not totally like oblivious to what I know, but yeah, man, it's a constant everyday go get up fear thing that pushes you, man. It's just nonstop. It's like I can't even stop it. Yeah.
I mean, do you enjoy this? Like, is putting this pressure on yourself and this stress, and is this enjoyable? Like, would you recommend this to people?
It's not enjoyable, but I'll tell you what it is though. Yeah, the reason, okay, yeah, it's not enjoyable, but there's a big difference. It's the way I can explain it is like this. If you drink a bottle of alcohol, you get instant gratification. If you smoke a cigarette, it's instant. But what I do is I go through tremendous amounts of pain, and then once I finish something, I go through tremendous amounts of happiness, and it's long lasting. So like if I do something like, let's say that even I did a recent short documentary, it was very challenging, and I did a bunch of different stuff, but when it was done, I feel very proud of that and very happy, and that just knowing that that's out there keeps me going, because I think that's what it's about. It's like, yeah, you do have to kind of feel the pain and the suffering. It's not for everyone, but as long as you're okay with like long-term getting something done after a long period of time, like that's a really, really long lasting, I guess, high you would call it. Like it's almost a long lasting high. And I think that's what keeps me going, man, is just knowing like if I just put in more hours, if I do a little bit more, I'll get that sort of feeling again of it's a really accomplished feeling. And that's the only way I can explain it, man. Is just you go through pain and you doubt yourself and you're scared and you don't know what you're going to do. And then you do it. And then all of a sudden you're like, how did I do that? Like, how did I make that decision? And then you're like, you feel good about it. So yeah, that's how I feel.
Yeah, you're stepping into the unknown and
That's
you're
right.
creating something from nothing. And I mean, from my perspective, it's been rewarding to be here. Maybe not as financially rewarding as recruitment
Yeah.
was for me, but it definitely is rewarding to know that I'm building this myself. And like you
Yeah.
said, that I'm building out these skills that hopefully will be security in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for sharing about this. And
No
yeah,
problem. Yeah.
I'm curious also, um, with this entrepreneurship, compared to when you were working in recruitment, do you work harder now? Like, are the hours longer now, but they feel a little bit better, or were the hours longer before? And how does your kind of schedule day to day look right now?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I would say with recruitment, it's it's a different kind of hours. Like when I was in recruitment, like I was, yeah, thinking about deals and thinking about what candidate and what I should pursue. So it was different. But like with this, it's really weird, Levi. It's like if I edit something, I need at least a day or two to not look at it and revisit it. And then there's iterations over and over. And also, people might not respect this who aren't creative people, but I need at least an hour or 2 hours of daydreaming a day of just ideas coming in my head of watching TV, writing something down. Like that's how I gather shit stuff, right? Sorry if you're allowed to swear, but yeah, that's how I gather stuff, right? So
Mhm.
like even going for a walk is part of my after I do something, I need to go for a walk and just let it kind of sort of whatever in my head, like it kind of
Kind of
percolates and yeah,
creating
just
some like blank
yes,
space maybe
yeah,
for
something happens. That's
things
right.
to.
That's exactly right.
Mhm.
Something happens, and yeah, that's part of it. It was never in my other career as a recruiter, but in this job, I realized it's pretty important to just let yourself sort of get taken away with thoughts and
Mm.
yeah.
Are you working like 8 hour days? Do you have a schedule for like what you do at what time?
Yeah, that's a good question. So actually it's been kind of trial and error. I've noticed that in the morning I should, because I'm a morning person, I should get done all my planning and anything that involves like um script writing or that kind of thing where I'm sort of technically planning something or whatever, but after lunch I'm useless. So if it's between like 12 and 3, I just don't have something happens. I don't know what it is. I can't think. But then like around 4, 5, 6, 7, I kind of get this sort of second wind where I'm like, okay, and I get on the computer, then I just start going crazy until about 7 or 8 or 9, and then I relax, watch a movie or something. But it just I think for every person you just have to listen to your body, I guess. For me, that's what I did. I just sort of listened to my body and I just took note of when I was good at doing something and bad at doing something, I guess, very in a very simple. I mean, I know it sounds simple, but that's kind of what I just did. I just realized that I'm not productive between 12 and 3. Because I like to eat. I like to have lunch. I usually
Mm.
I do fasting as well, so I'll fast in the morning and I'm just like super productive. And then after I eat, I'm useless for like 3 hours. And then basically, yeah,
What do you do for those 3 hours?
literally sit there and like sometimes I'll
Is
study
that the
Japanese. Yeah, yeah.
is that
Sorry,
the
go ahead.
percolation time or is that different?
Um, yeah, that's funny. Is that the percolation time? I guess it. I guess it kind of is. I also like. I'm obsessed with chess. I play chess as well, so I'm like interested in that. So sometimes I'll just keep my brain going. I'll play a bit of chess and then I'll get back at it. But yeah, yeah. I don't know. I don't think I'm that productive during that time. It's just it's my write off time basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I feel very similarly. And at that time in the afternoon,
Yeah.
I find I'm really creative at night actually, and I'm also really motivated at night. But then I can't turn my brain off.
Right.
And so it kind of works against me because my schedule is I usually go to sleep. I try to go to sleep around like 9 p.m. Or 9:30.
I see.
But for some reason, if I'm working late, then it'll drag out until later. So it's listening to your body, I guess, and maybe even making a sacrifice for work.
Yeah, I agree with that. So you still wake up early?
Yeah, I usually wake up around like 5 a.m.
Okay, similar to me. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, but I'm someone who needs a lot of sleep.
Okay.
So generally, or maybe I'll take a little bit of a nap. But anyway, I guess I want to wrap this up with a question about what kind of advice you would give to people, maybe recruiters or maybe others who are considering to go into an entrepreneurial path or into a creative path.
Nice. I feel like, yeah, it's hard to give advice. I want to, and I will, but I feel like it's such an individualistic thing. Because yeah, I guess, you know, you just have to love what you're doing. Something will tell you. Like, that's the whole thing. Like, even though it feels unknown, if something is really enjoyable, like actually you have fun doing it and it's possible to turn into a job, I would say, maybe pursue it. You know, I always think about people who start their own like clothing business or their own, if you those people on Dragon's Den. If you ever watched some of those people, they are clearly in love with business and their product and they believe in it, right? So, I really believe in what I'm doing. I believe it. I believe that there is a path of happiness here. I know it's doable. So I think as long as you believe it, and you believe in yourself, and you're willing to sacrifice the time it takes to get good at something, and just sacrifice, yeah.
Did it feel like a sacrifice for you, or did it feel like it was just enjoyable when you're learning?
Yeah, actually, it's a great question. Learning for me is the most enjoyable process of all. Learning something I can't even express to you how fun it is to find something that you really love. Let's say, for example, I love the movie Kill Bill. Tarantino is one of my favorite. I got Pulp Fiction back there on the wall. It's one of my favorite directors. And there's a scene from Kill Bill where Oren Ishii, one of the assassins, is walking with her crew in this hallway, and I studied that whole sequence, and it's the very famous da da da, like when they're all walking slow motion, and I was like, my company let me create that with one of their people, and I got to recreate it, and I nailed it. Like, I got every single shot exactly what he did, and yeah, I did copy it verbatim exactly what he did, but it was just so fun to try the different lenses and study what he did, and that was the most enjoyable thing. Like, learning, in my opinion, is, yeah, I mean, I wish I could get paid for learning because I would do it all day. If you just pay me to learn, oh my god, I would sit there all day. But doing this job is kind of like learning as well. Like, every time I do something, I'm learning. But yeah, to just sit there and just get to do whatever you want and figure it out and experiment, that's the most enjoyable process, bar none, out of this whole thing, man. Is, yeah, learning something new and applying it is really fun. Yeah.
Awesome.
I would say.
Yeah. I have a similar passion for learning. And I think that's why I love Japanese and Japan so much, is because constantly you're stimulated by new things and new ways of being and different characters, and that was kind of addicting for a long period of time.
I feel you. 100%.
And entrepreneurship, tons of learning.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you for sharing all of this and your advice to people. It's not for everyone, clearly.
Yeah. I mean, you're doing it too, Levi. Like, you're living this whole new thing. Like, I kind of feel bad that we talked about me the whole time. I kind of wanted to hear about you a bit, but
maybe I'll do one in the future.
About
me. But yeah, I appreciate it. And I guess now the last thing is for your business and anyone who's listening, maybe that might be interested to connect with you and work on a project. Can you speak a little bit about where they can find you and what that would look like to work with you, who you work with, etc.
Sure, sure. So a lot of the stuff that I do is, well, I do corporate stuff. So I have a lot of recruitment clients. We're doing corporate videos, short documentaries. I worked with Tom's Racing over in Fuji Raceways over in Yamanashi. So they're another one of our clients, but we're mainly doing short docs, corporate videos. I want to get into music videos as well. My company is called Indigo Media. That was chosen because I'm a big fan of the Duffer Brothers and their series Stranger Things. And a little known fact is that actually Stranger Things was going to be called Indigo. If you didn't know that, that's what they were going to call it. I'm happy they call it. Yeah.
Japan Blue kind of thing.
Yeah, no, they were going to call it something like Indigo something, but they changed it to Stranger Things, which I think is a much better title. But I like the idea of Indigo Media, so that's why I named it. Yeah, my website's indigomedia.jp. Japanese, we're a Japanese company. But yeah, like, I mean, if you want to work with me, I'd be happy to see what your vision is. And my process is really simple. We just go through exactly what you want. We create the storyboards, the shot listing. We do even mood boards and figure out the look and the mood of what your idea is. And then we go through the production schedule and editing. And the last really good thing about me is that you don't have to pay for equipment rentals. I actually own pretty much any piece of equipment you can imagine for filmmaking. So we have cinema cameras, dollies, gimbals, any kind of matte boxes with any kind of filter that you would want. So only thing we don't have is a boom arm, which is super expensive, which I'm not going to buy, because if you need a boom, then it sounds like it's probably a Hollywood production. But hey, I'm happy to open to anything. But yeah, like if you ever have something that, you know, you want, it's in your head and you want to get it out on a screen, I would love to help you. And that's what I do, man. I love that stuff. So
you do great work.
Thank you, Levi. I appreciate it.
Thank you for coming on. We'll wrap it up now.
Sure.
But much appreciated.
Absolutely. And let's do it. I want to hear about you next time, not just about me. I feel kind of bad talking the whole time. All right.
Okay.
Thanks, Levi. Appreciate it.
Thank you.